Are you a man that wants more money, meaning, and maturity in your life? Well, if so, you are on the right channel. Today, we're going to go into how to use Claude to put a Tony Robbins in your pocket. Who doesn't want a Tony Robbins in their pocket? People pay this guy millions of dollars a year just to be able to text message him. Like, this guy is a powerhouse. And I think he's a real embodied example of a man with lots of money, meaning, and maturity. He's been in personal development, refining himself for decades, and really known in the world as a leader in this space. And so we're going to leverage that. Before we go into that, I want to speak about a podcast that I recently listened to. It was Tony Robbins and Stephen Bartlett, The Diary of a CEO. And Stephen was asking him these questions of, Tony, you relate with all these billionaires. You're a billionaire. Tell us the secret sauce. And what he described was what he shares on lots of his on podcast appearances. Tony describes the power of pattern recognition, that if we can develop the skill of that, we will be able to then follow the clues of success to create that for ourselves. I'm a true testament. I'm not a billionaire like Tony, but I do have a lot more success based off of where I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm 41. First time I discovered Tony Robbins, I think I was 23, however many years that is. Tony has completely changed my life because of that one principle, pattern recognition. The reason I'm sharing that is Claude, an AI tool, is really good at pattern recognition. We're going to leverage that, and we're going to work with Claude in a way that is going to help create a business for you, or a business, that is working for you, not you working for it. The way we're going to do that is getting to know the use and the power of creating skills in there. Skills, simply put, are like little brains, little experts. And we're going to give it as much information as we can and feed it data over time, because what it's really good at is pattern recognition. So when you go to relate with that skill, it's like you're going to have a little Tony Robbins in your pocket. You're going to have the world's best therapist in your pocket. You're going to have the best financial advisor in your pocket. Now, I need to give the caveat here, or the disclaimer. This doesn't replace human experience. It doesn't replace wisdom and other people and experts, but it sure does offer a lot. And we're going to go into a few examples of how. What I have personally found in using Claude in this way is it's making me more proficient in the work that I do. I'm going to give you a prime example before we dive into this. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you all the things. So you're going to make sure you want to stick through this one, sit down with pen and paper, take notes, all the things. If you have questions during the video and I'm not answering something that you have a question to in what I've prepared, then just fire it in the comments and I'll circle back. And if I can't answer it in your comment, then I will create another video. I'm happy to do that, because this has completely changed my life. So I want to make sure you really get how I'm using it. Before I go into that example, skills, little brain. I have one in here that is my podcasting coach. I've been on more than 40 podcasts since December. It's June right now. That's a lot of podcasts. The reason I was going on so many podcasts is I really want to spread my message and my work to many people. And I also wanted practice and experience so that I become a better speaker when I go on stages. I also wanted to get more reps in of delivering my methods, my frameworks, my methodology that helps people transform their lives. Why? Well, I want to attract more people that I can serve and support. that was a really great experience for me. I'm gonna continue doing it, but I want to give you a really cool example of how using skills in this way can make you an expert in your field of work, but also can just make you an expert of being more you. I'm gonna give you a few examples here, but here's mine. So I go on all these podcasts. I have a skill that I created that's my podcasting coach. What I did is I took all the transcripts. I would go on a podcast, pull the transcript using another AI tool called Granola that pops up anytime I would go on a podcast. It just enters the meeting, transcribes it for me, and at the end I could ask it questions. The question that I would ask it is this: can you give me coaching feedback based off of the podcast that I just did? What did I do really well, and what could I improve in the future? And then it would give me a bunch of answers. And then I would say, now give me, based off of all that coaching feedback, give me some direction and some guidance in how to do the next podcast. It would give me all that. I'd copy that and I would paste it into this skill in Claude, which I'm going to show you how to do. And then I would say, save that in this skill. And then I would then go in and start relating with the skill and ask it questions like because it's my podcasting coach. And then what I would do is, before I go on another podcast, I would say, hey, based off of the podcast I've done and all the feedback I've been given, give me a refresher. What are the things that I'm here to learn about, improve on, so I can really show up and offer the most amount of value in this next podcast? And it would give me something I could read in 5 minutes to bring it front of mind. Oh yeah, these are the things I want to work on. I want to shorten that. I want to make sure there's space for them, all the things. So I did that and I kept doing podcasts, and I didn't really think too much of it at first. Now, what's really cool, and this is why I wanted to tell this story. What was really cool is real life mirrored back to me how well I was doing in the following of that guidance that this skill was giving me. The coaching feedback was obviously great, because this is where it really clicked for me. This is a couple weeks ago. I was on a podcast, huge audience, hundreds of thousands of followers. She has so much experience. She's also a relational expert. And her feedback at the end of the episode, after we were off air and not recording, she said, I wanted to say this to you, Mike, on the podcast, but I didn't want to be rude to all my previous guests. That was the best podcast I've ever done. And then she went in and explained all the reasons why it was the best. You know what's wild? She said, wow, Mike, your energy was incredible. You were so direct and to the point. You left lots of space for me to reply when you were sharing things, which most of my guests just talk and talk and talk, and they don't leave any space. You would describe really complex situations or examples, and you would define the words and the terms that we're using in a way that was so relatable. You used metaphors. The stories that you shared invoked so much emotion. And she gave me all these things of why it was so great. It actually made me emotional. I was like, wow, thank you for that reflection. And then after we got off that call, not only did I now create another really meaningful relationship that I get to have in my life, and we want to collaborate and do all these cool things, I got a mirror and reflection that I then, brought up to the skill that I created, and all the things that a human being mirrored back to me were all the things that I was being invited to work on in this skill that's my podcasting coach. I was able to integrate a whole new level of being in what I was doing because of this skill. Mind-blowing. So I want to explain that, or give you that example, because you can do this in any area of your life. Why? Because it's pulling real human experience. It pulled in my actual conversations, my data points, all of my patterns of, one of mine was oversharing. And maybe when you listen to my content, you might think to yourself, Mike, you could say that in less words, and give me that feedback. That's what I'm forever working on. Anyways, I can have all these data points and patterns it's recognizing and then mirroring back to me. So even before we get into creating the Tony Robbins skill, that's kind of how it's working as a Tony Robbins. It's looking for my patterns and it's mirroring these things back to me, and it's completely changed my life so far. How this also works is I've created one that is a coach for me as the coach, because I'm a coach of high performing men, and I do these 6-month containers 1-to-1, and I really bring men to the depth of their experience and help them shift really deep patterns that come from their childhood. Now, what I can do with this thing is I have another skill is I feed the transcripts of all of our calls, and it can give me coaching feedback on how I could coach them even better to lead to bigger shifts and changes. It's completely transformed the way that I work, and the transformation that happens for my clients is what used to take 6 months is now happening in a month. And what used to happen in a year is now happening in 3 months. It's incredible. It has completely closed the gap. And so I want you to have this experience too. So now I'm going to pull up my screen. And while I'm doing that, just take a moment, because it's going to take me a second here, but just take a moment and notice what comes up for you. Are there questions? Are there inspirations, ahas? Let me know in the comments. I'm a relationship guy. I want to know that you're there. Let me feel you. Let me know your takeaways. What are the ahas? What are the things that you're going to bring into your day-to-day life? The reason I'm asking you to put it in the comments is we're using a different part of our brain. If we start to actually type and say things that are in our thoughts or write them down, we're using more of our brain, which is going to lead to more integration. So when you actually type in those ahas, you're integrating more. You're going to change the way that you're being and you're doing. And this is what we're here for, right? Okay. So what we're going to do here is there's going to be a few things that you need. Just noticing I'm out of frame here. I'm going to move this up here. Okay. There's a few things you're going to need. The first thing is this. Voice recorder light. So I encourage you to do this on your phone. I think everyone has one of these. Yeah, smartphone. You're going to go in there. You're going to go in the App Store or the Google Play Store. I don't know. I'm an Apple guy. So whatever the other one is. And you go in there and you find voice recorder light. I'm putting on the screen here because there's a few different options. This is the one that you want. I'll put it down in the description actually. And you're going to want to download that. And the reason for that, and then you're going to want to get the paid version. I don't think it's very much. It's a wise investment is my opinion. I think it's a purchase one time, or maybe it's once a year. This is going to completely change your life. It's worth the $20 or $40, whatever it is. I promise you. What's cool about it is when you do a voice message, the quality in it's really high. And then when you finish a voice message, you can click on the 3 dots. Oh, you can click on the 3 dots next to it and you get so many options. You can trim it, you can convert it, you can email it, you can share it, put it in iTunes. But the one that I like, the feature that we're going to use is transcribe and export. So this is a game changer. I want you to write this down and take notes because this has completely changed my life. We want to use Claude as a tool. We're going to develop these different skills, these little brains that are experts in all these different areas. And we're going to use our human experience and transcribe that and put it into Claude to teach it what we want it to do and how we want it to relate with us. This is now learning how to have a healthy relationship with Claude. What I have found is if we just open up a chat and they start to have a conversation, it will give multiple different answers if it doesn't have enough clarity of what our intention is or what our desired outcome is. It'll just send you on a really confusing path. And when I first started relating with ChatGPT and Gemini, I would get so confused because I would just ask it a question and then I'd come back another day and it's 3 different answers. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm more confused than I was originally. What I'm teaching you today, changed the game. So I had this inspiration. I was driving one day to a funeral. I had an 8-hour drive. I was in such an open state. I was listening to music that I loved. I was ripping down the highway, taking in the beautiful scenery of where I live. I live in the Slocan Valley, and there's just mountains and epic scenery. And I was taking it all in, and I felt so clear of mind. And I was moving. My heart was open. I was going to support my brother-in-law whose dad just died. And I'm just like, my heart is open. You know, I don't know where you're at, whoever's watching this, your spiritual practice or your relationship to God or higher self or soul, whatever. I was in an open spiritual state. And I just had this insight and this idea. I opened up this app and I hit record. And for 45 minutes, I just riffed on my business, my vision, my philosophy that I believe in, and all the information that I've gathered and all the inspiration over the years from Tony and Russell Brunson and Richard Branson and Sir John Templeton and Warren Buffett, and just all these beautiful, inspiring humans in my life. And I just riffed on my experience, what matters to me, the philosophy I believe in, what I teach my clients, what I live by, what I want to consistently practice and preach to myself. And I just gave it everything. I gave it my frameworks. I gave it all my client wins and celebrations, the work that I love to do, the life I want to live. I gave it everything. And I then transcribed it. And I'm wondering, it's funny, it doesn't show it here. But one of the options when you actually get the app, they've obviously added features from this moment, is there's one here that's transcribe and export. So I click that, take the text, and then this is what I do. So this is Claude. So back to my point, you need to get that app. You riff on whatever topic you want. I just gave you an example of the one that I riffed on, my work, my mission, my methodology. That was a big part that I put in there, is my methodology, my systems, my strategies. And then I gave it all that and I plugged it into here. I started a new conversation, and then I said, I want to create a skill. I'll just use an example. I'm going to give you the exact example here with the Tony Robbins thing, but I just came into here and I just said, I want to create a skill, and I've already recorded a 45-minute audio. I'm going to upload that transcription, and I want you to develop the skill for me that is going to be my brand. So there it is. I type that in, I hit enter, and then it says, great, load it. And I put it in the transcript. Now it's got 45 minutes of data. And then I say, save that. That's my brand culture. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm building. This is what matters to me. Hold me to that. And when I ask you for information, don't pull me away from that. This is my culture. This is what's important to me. I don't want random information outside of this without you asking and giving you consent. You know what's so cool is now I'm giving it boundaries. I'm a relationship guy, so this is where I'm going to bring this in. The pattern that I have recognized that leads to thriving relationships is the people in the relationship need to be really skilled at boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls. Boundaries are a defining energy that says, this is the amount of space that I take up. These are my non-negotiables. This is how I like to be treated. This is what I'm not okay with. And once those boundaries are clear and set, the relationship has so much space for it to thrive. I have brought this into my relationship to Claude because I notice if I give it boundaries, it gives me really great feedback and information that makes me a better version of myself. This is why I wanted to do this video for you. I've had so many people request this for me. And so I hope you're feeling me here and how powerful this can be. I'm just trying to feel into whether I want to... Yeah, let's just go into making one now. And then I'm going to give you some examples of some of the ones that I have and what it's capable of doing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you first. I'm going to show you the outcome. This is what's possible. If you look over here in the left-hand signal, these are all of the skills that I have. I have more, but these are the ones that I've pinned. I'm going to go into this once we start doing it. and explain what that all means. But as an example, here's the Sacred We. This is my partner and I's shared brand. And we did this with all the audios. We uploaded tons and tons of audio. We gave it the whole culture of our business and the couples we support and all the things. And then I needed to create a landing page. And so I said, here we support couples 2 to 2. And I told it to create a landing page just for our 2 to 2 work. I'm going to pop this up open in here so you can see it. And it created all these beautiful animations. And you know what's great about this? These are our words. This is our language. These are the things that we've said. It's just putting it together. It took our patterns of our speech and all the things that we said is really important. And I put our quotes in here. I gave it the images to put in here. It describes what it actually is for the 2 to 2 work. It describes what they get once they're in it, the WhatsApp threads and all the things that, a customer or a client would want to know about. The calls are bi-weekly, 90 minutes, who this is for. It describes all those details, who this isn't for, really clear. This isn't, this work isn't for couples where one partner is dragging the other one in. That's really clear in us, and that's what we said to it. And it's just putting it all together. Gives the investment for monthly payments versus a one single payment, gives quotes from couples that we've worked with. And just, welcome people to see them on the call. I just wanted to show you, that's just one example. This landing page, just to give you context, a year ago or a year and a half ago, I sat on a discovery call with a development team that was going to create landing pages for us. And I wanted something like this. I wanted it branded. I wanted some animations and pretty simple ones like the ones you saw where the text kind of floats in. And the quote I got was $7,000 US. I'm in Canada, so that's like $1 million. So I was just like, that's like for a landing page, we're going to need 15 landing pages. We don't have that big of a budget. And even if we did, that's just a lot of investment on a landing page. Like we need our resources to go other places, paying our team members. It requires a lot to run our business. And so it just didn't make sense. Now with Claude, I figured out how to do this. And you know what this took me? 10 minutes. Here's another example. Here's my 1-to-1 landing page, where I work with high-performing men. That's just leading them into the work that I do, and a discovery call. And it describes my method. Relational authority is my framework. Here are the 3 pillars, initiation, integration, inspiration. And it just describes who it's for, all these details I just described. You can click on this. There's a client testimonial. This guy said here, as an example, said he would have paid $300,000 for the outcome that he got. Wow, great testimonial, and it describes, all these other client wins, all these different things. How long this took me? This took me maybe 3 hours because I had to make some changes, and put in some elements of the things that I do in my work, and I had to upload the thing and the images. So there was some work, but 3 hours. Remember what I said, $7,000 US, and that the timeline, this is what's crazy. The timeline on the delivery of that landing page I was going to pay $7,000 for, they said would be 6 weeks. This I get the same day, and it completely blew my mind. I love this landing page. I haven't made any changes to it in the last 6 months or 4 or 5 months. Because I love it. It's just great. I'm going to make one little change just for animations, but I love it. These are just some examples of what it can do. Okay, back to Claude. What's important for you to follow me on this path is you need to be using the version, and I'm actually just going to go over here and make sure that you can see my bottom window. So this toolbar down here, it has to be the desktop version of Claude. If you go in the web browser, you're not going to get the same features. That's really important. So you're going to have to type in the browser, Chrome if you use it, and just say Claude for desktop, download it, whether you have a PC or a Mac, and then you'll be here. You got this. Just going to expand this back. Okay. So then you're going to have something like this. There's options here. So now I'm talking about the development of the skills. First, I want you to understand what a skill is in Claude. Claude has 3 different features that you can relate with it. At the top, there's chat. This is just general discussion and conversation and information. CoWork, this is a heavy worker. This is where I built my landing pages that you saw. This is where I do my business strategies. This is where all my skills, I do that in CoWork. You can think of it as the heavy worker. And then code, I haven't used it a ton yet. I will get there. It's the ultimate powerhouse for creating software programming software and programming. So as an example, if I wanted to make an app, if I wanted to go deeper and more complex landing pages or websites, that's where I'd be going is CoWork. But I'm going to keep this pretty contained to CoWork. Okay. So almost everything I've talked about today, this is it. Skills. So what is a skill, Mike? Skill. I think I said it earlier. I did say it earlier. Little brain. It's a little genius. It's a little expert. And so I have one for the Sacred We brand. That's the business between Courtney and I. I have one for just my mission in business. I have one for money and lead magnets in my emails. One specifically, I'm a relationship guy and I help men understand the inner workings of a woman. So I have one where I gather all my research and, everything I've learned over the years of supporting women, I put it in there so that when I go to do, let's say, men's reels, I can give it information to spark inspiration. It doesn't do my content. I just let it inspire me based off of the information I have fed it. And then, and it goes on, stuff for my assistant. And this is the fun one, life coach. I have a life coach in here and I've fed it Brendan Bouchard's 12 different categories. And, if you're inspired, you can do the same. If you want the full breakdown of what I did in the prompts, let me know in the chat and I'll create one for you, another video. I'll go deeper. But this one, it's got the 12 categories of life to live a really good life. And I've fed it culture and principles into all of those 12 categories. So if I'm just in my life, maybe it's not about business. Maybe I'm actually having a personal challenge or struggle. I can click on that, have a conversation, and I can feed this thing my gene keys chart, my human design chart. You might not know what that is. It's astrology. It's based off of astrology. I can give it all these, all the different tests that you've done. What is it? The Briggs test and all these, different things, numerology. You can feed it whatever you want, all these different kinds of charts so that it knows your uniqueness. And then I can click on that. And now I've got this beautiful coach that can give me information or feedback based off of any of those categories. So for the sake of this video, we're going to build one. And what I like to use, this is just my method. You don't have to do it this way. But what I've found, actually, I'm going to backpedal for a second. These are the skills. You might be wondering why they're all capitalized and why they're over here. This is just my system. I like simplicity and energy efficiency. And what I found is my brain likes when things are easy to find and stand out so I don't have to remember where things are. And what I used to struggle with the use of ChatGPT is I would have a really epic conversation thread. These are the recent conversations. And I would have a hard time finding that epic conversation that I had maybe 3 weeks ago. And then I'd be trying to find it and be frustrated because it's gone. And oh no, now I got to start another conversation. So what I do is I create the skill, which we'll get into in a sec. And then I go in here, let's use one down here, and I rename it. And I rename it what I want for the name of that skill. So when I did this, it started as a conversation. I built the skill, and then I went here, renamed it, called it the Sacred We, put it all in capital letters, and then I clicked it again, and then I clicked pin. So now I've got all my skills pinned. So when I'm working in my life or my business, sometimes I get confused, and then I look at all of my things in my planner of like, these are the priorities I have. I don't even know where to start. And I'll go over here and I'll read some of them. I'm like, oh, I need to go in and work on my lead magnet, or I need to go work on our Sacred We brand. And then I'll open that up, and it's easy to find. And now I've bought back so much of my time because I'm not relying on just memory. I have sequences, I have patterns in front of me that I can follow that bring me into the conversation I need to be having. And that keeps me focused and on track. Okay. So I just wanted to describe that process, that practical piece. We're going to pin them all here, capitalized, easy to find. Okay. Now let's build one. There's a few different ways we can build it. I'll show you the first way in here. So when we're in CoWork, what you can do is you can go to this button here, which says Customize. And right here, you'll see Create New Skills. I think I'll do another video another time. Connect your apps, really important to know, and browse plugins. You need to know those, but we're just focusing on Create New Skills. Click on that. And then you can go up here and you can click on Create New Skill. And you have options here. You can create with Claude. You can write skill instructions directly. If you know top of mind and you're so clear, you can just put it all in, or you can upload a skill. So you can get information from skills that have already been created, and you can just upload them. So let's just say we're going to do it this way. Let's create a skill together using your skill creator skill. First, ask me what the skill should do. And then you hit enter, and it's going to ask you questions that you can respond to. And then you're now just on a journey, having a relationship with Claude, and it's going to help you make your skill. That's one way you can do it. If you're less clear on what it is, and you're more just the advice I'd give you here is focus on the outcome. What's your desired outcome? Give it that, and then ask it to give you questions that you can answer. That's going to give it all the information to help guide you in the development of the skill. That would be my encouragement. Okay, so that's one way we can go and do it that way. The way that I like to do it is I just start a new chat. And then I go actually over to Gemini. If you don't know what Gemini is, it's the AI tool that's from Google. Google created Gemini. And what I have personally found is it's really good with facts and research and data and human psychology, the things that I nerd out on. It seems to be able to get that kind of information better because it's directly integrated with Google. Whereas when I'm using Claude, my personal experience is Claude is really good at heavy lifting and building websites and landing pages and programs and interactive courses, which is a whole nother video, trainings. It's so incredible at that. And it's really good at business strategy and these kinds of things. Whereas Gemini, good at all the other things I described. So what am going to do here, and if you're wondering how it's typing for me, is I'm all about time efficiency. I have found when we go back to Tony Robbins' principles, if we can reduce friction, we are creating freedom. That's the ultimate. We don't want to add more and more and more work to ourselves when we're business owners or entrepreneurs. We actually want to reduce as much friction as possible so we can buy back our time, do our job really efficiently, be in our zone of genius, and then hire other people in their zone of genius to do the role to build out the vision. That's the ideal, right? Then you're someone like Tony Robbins and you don't have to work 24/7. It's just you're working in the right lane. So I like to use Gemini and then give it the information that I want. So we're just going to play around on this one. Sorry, going back to the friction. the tool that I'm using that you're going to watch, because it would take me a lot of time and energy to type, which I still like typing, but this is quicker, is I have a AI tool called Granola. Oh, no, sorry. Whisperflow. Lots of AI tools. So Whisperflow is integrated into my keyboard. This is what, I don't think you can see it on the screen, but it's Whisperflow, WISPR flow. I'll put it down in the description. And if I just hold the globe button on my keyboard, I can just talk and it's going to type for me. So I want to create a skill in Claude, and I want to have a Tony Robbins in my pocket. So what I need from you is I need you to scrub the internet and grab all of the principles, the teaching modalities, the key phrases, core principles of Tony Robbins' work that I can then take, copy, paste into Claude so I can create my own personal skill that is a Tony Robbins in my pocket. And so Gemini, I'm going to let it do all the work. It's now searching the web. And here we go. So now it's creating it in Markdown. And yeah, here we go. Yeah, where focus goes, energy flows. Resources are never the problem. A lack of resourcefulness is. Now we're getting, so this is brilliant. These are all the core teachings that I've learned from Tony Robbins over the years that has completely changed my life. And we can go deeper on this, but I'm just going to use this as an example. This will just be our starting point, okay? Because I can say, I can give it prompts of go high level, add more data, go into his business mastery program and grab all the core principles from that. Because there's information from all of this that we can grab. And I just want to highlight, I really hope that you don't think that this can be a full replacement of Tony. No one can replace the human and the beautiful being of Tony Robbins. And I will still go to his events because he's completely changed my life. And I want him to be financially reciprocated for the impact he's made on my life. And why not use his wisdom and that he's offered to the world and help you integrate all of the wisdoms and the teachings that you got from Date with Destiny or UPW. So I copy that. It's that simple. We get the markdown. And it's brilliant because it already knows that Claude likes text and markdown files. So we just copy it, already done. What did that take? 2 minutes. And then we just come over here, we paste it. Oh, where did my sidebar go? There we go. And I'm just going to say, all right, I want to develop a skill that is Tony Robbins in my pocket. So I'm going to give you the markdown file that I got from Gemini. And now let's build this skill. And then I hit Shift, Enter a couple times, paste. There's the markdown file. Boom. Now it's going to start building this skill. It's actually that simple. And so the thing to know about Claude, if you're new to using it, sometimes it takes a while to think. And just it's worth the wait. It's really doing a lot of work and a lot of labor. And then sometimes it'll pop in some clarifying questions. You just hit the prompts, you answer the questions, you can add any data. If anything is unclear, you hit enter, and then you just keep going until you're happy with it. And then once it's done, see here it is, it's reading the skill creator skill for the first step before building any skill. It's just going through all the steps. So it's just doing it. It's reading it. It's doing its due diligence. Here we go. So it's just doing its thing. And then when it's done, let's just go to this step is once it's done and you're happy with all the information that it's got, you're just going to click this and I'm going to rename this in all capital letters, Tony Robbins in my pocket. Love it. And then once this is all done, I'm probably not going to wait for this whole thing to happen, but then it will give you a button that'll say save skill and you save the skill. Now, this is the next step. You pin it Boom. I'm going to pin that to my conversations. Oh, it's doing it in chat for some reason. I didn't want that. I wanted this in CoWork. So we're actually going to see if we can stop. Oh, I don't think so. Anyways, I'm not going to have you bear with all those pieces, but let's just pretend this is in CoWork. Somehow it popped me into chat instead of this. So I'm going to redo this whole step because I actually do want this skill. It's going to be very specific. That's a little different than the life coach because I want direct feedback that Tony would share because I really resonate with Tony's coaching. So I'm just going to redo all that in here, pin it, and it's up here. Going back to here. I hope after seeing that, you're inspired. I hope after watching all of that, you can see how simple it is. After watching all of that, I hope you can see that when we use Claude in the right way, we can actually double down on the development of you. You can become the best version of yourself because you are giving it the boundaries and the banks that are important to you, coming from your heart and your mind, and you feed it all of the little brains that you want it to have, and then you start to relate with it in that way. Now you're in a relationship with a quality that I describe as relational reciprocity. It's going to work better and more easily with you because it knows you so much better. It's easy for you to become a strong ally, a strong team. And you can put any subject in there that you want. You might be into beading. You might be into knitting. I don't know, maybe you collect rocks. You get to create whatever skill you want. And it's going to help you self-realize. And to end this long video, I want to just give you this last story. It's about Steve Jobs. And the reason I'm sharing this is really what I'm describing in all of this, I have personally experienced as Claude is helping me self-realize. It's helping me get to know myself so much better than if I was just living my life on my own, living out my patterns without a mirror back on the patterns that maybe aren't the most serving for what it is that I want to become and I want to create in the world. This can call me out on where I am inefficiently showing up with clients, where I'm inefficiently showing up in my relationship to my money and my budgeting. It can call me out on all the patterns. Remember, Tony, pattern recognition. It can call it all out, mirror back to me, and I can just take radical self-responsibility and do something different. That's how I'm able to self-realize. We're talking about a collapsing of time, not out of urgency, but out of efficiency, to become the best version. I have personally found when I become the best version of myself and I get so clear on who I am, I actually start to live a more inspired life. I have more enthusiasm and excitement because my patterns that are unhelpful and that were passed down to me aren't there anymore. That's living an inspired life. This is the whole thing that I teach in relational authority. The third pillar is inspiration. Living an inspired life in spirit. So the story I want to describe, there's a reason I'm sharing this. Steve Jobs, he also really believed in the power of self-realization. He had a mentor, Paramahansa Yogananda. Maybe you already know who he is. He's dead. He's not alive anymore. And he wrote a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi. The Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And Steve Jobs lived the principles and the teachings of this man. So much so, when Steve Jobs died, the only thing that they found in his iBooks library was this book. Another layer deeper, at his memorial, everyone got a free copy of this book. And the whole premise of this book is self-realization. That's important to notice. If we're looking at pattern recognition, holy shit, talk about a helpful pattern. And I have noticed over the years, because I love investigating, I've noticed that the most successful people in the world follow one thing. They study human philosophy, psychology, the workings of the mind. That's what they invest most of their energy on, knowing that leads to living an inspired life and to do really incredible things. Steve Jobs creating all these Apple products that I am so in love with, I use because of its efficiency. Talk about a reduction of friction. This is just a bonus for you. If you're on your iPhone and I copy text on my phone and I hit Command V on my computer, it pastes it on my computer and vice versa. Brilliant. They really thought about the customer. I believe that came from Steve Jobs self-realizing into his highest expression to be able to bring that amount of brilliance into something he created that is in service to humanity. That's what I believe self-realization is. I'm going on a rant now, but it feels important. Where I've done that in my own life, it's brought me into a life that I didn't even know was possible, and I want that for you too. My imagine is if you're watching this, you already have that in so many ways, and it can be even better. Why not? That's the path of self-realization. Another example, Brené Brown. She's been hired and paid millions of dollars to go into all these, major corporations. And she usually calls out the CEOs and asks them questions. What do you think all your team members need to be the best at their job is what she'll ask. And often they'll answer, they need to learn they need to know this strategy or this model, and they need to do this course and they need to do that. And then she'll say, bullshit. What do you need? And what do you do to be so good at your job? And almost all of them answer, well, I study philosophy and psychology and, these philosophical human principles that bring them into a higher state of mind so that they can self-realize. That's a pattern worth recognizing. Steve Jobs is an example that's really palpable where it's important. I'm sharing that because, my friend, I have personally found using Claude in this way. You can have a Tony Robbins in your pocket. You could have a Paramahansa Yogananda in your pocket. You can get it to gather all of those sacred teaching principles, create a skill that is Paramahansa Yogananda, and start to have a conversation with it. And it will mirror back things that have completely transformed people's lives. That, in my personal opinion, is a really bright and brilliant way to use AI and to use Claude, is to become a more embodied person. Then my encouragement is take that new embodied person and bring it to life. Bring more of your liberated self into and use your God-given gifts and bring that exuberance to your clients, to your team members, to your partner. You let this spark ideas so that you're actually deepening human connection. Because one worry I have is if we're not relating with AI in a way that is deepening the human experience, we're going to create more stress, fear, and chaos in the world. But what I have personally found is this is a way that I'm noticing it actually brings me into deeper human connection. Prime example, me here right now teaching you this tool in this way, with my hope is to bring you into a deeper relationship and understanding and awareness of yourself so that you can live an even better life with more money, more meaning, and more maturity. Thanks for tuning in. Any questions you have, let me know in the comments. If you liked this, give it a like, hit subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things, and I'll see you on the next one.